All right, now on to the tips and advice that I have for anybody who wants to start implementing a system like I do on my dashboard for Notion. Hello and welcome to this video. So for today, I decided that I needed to do some organizing on my Notion dashboard, which is what I use to plan and organize all of my stuff as an indie author. And as somebody who had never used or implemented anything like that up until the past few years, I thought it might be helpful to show you guys what my Notion dashboard looks like and what you could potentially use your dashboard for. So let's talk about it. So the best way that I can describe Notion is it's basically like a productivity tracking sort of app. There's more extensive videos and stuff talking about exactly what Notion is. So if you're curious before you get started with this, I recommend you go check those out. If I find any ones that I find particularly helpful, I'll put it down in the description. Otherwise, basically, it's equivalent of like a Jira or an Asana, but it's a little bit more customizable and it's a little bit more fun, in my opinion, to kind of play around in. With that said, I use Notion to track all of my stuff for authoring and other things associated with authoring, which, as a sidebar to that, I own my own LLC for my stuff. So again, I'm just starting out, so it's not like this is a fully established LLC or anything like that, but it's called ECC Publishing, which is basically all of my stuff that I'm going to be doing under authoring and anything else. It's basically going to go under that umbrella. So if you see mentions of that, that's why I have it set up on this the way I do, because it's all under that umbrella. So with that said, I think we should go to the tour part of this video. So let's get started. So hello, you're going to be over here. I've got my screen on the other side, so we're going to go back and forth with that. But this is my Notion dashboard right now. So as I mentioned, it's under the ECC Publishing, my little home dashboard. So all of my stuff basically is going to fall under this entire umbrella. This template, I'm also going to make sure that I inform you ahead of time that I did not create the base template that I used in order to create a lot of this. I had two different templates that I purchased through two different sellers on Etsy, and I will put the description and the links for those templates down in the description if you guys are interested in checking those out, because I personally have found, especially the one where like it's like an entire dashboard that they built, insanely helpful. The other one was specifically for book related stuff. So if you're interested in that, again, links are in the description. So for this, I have I have three sections basically. So navigation is over here on the left side. I've got my main section here in the middle. And then I basically created this like master links list for myself. So that way, if I need to like go somewhere quickly, or if I need to link out something really quickly, these are the links that I tend to need the most frequently. And this list is ever evolving and changing and all that kind of stuff. So this list is almost always in motion to some degree. For social media stuff, which again, one of the biggest things besides the actual book planning that I do on Notion. So I have this whole section on my homepage on the dashboard here so that I can link out and go to those particular pages so that it's just quick and easy, because I'm very much if I see it on the dashboard, then I know click, I'm where I need to be. So I've got my monthly planning. And again, this is for the year 2025. So this recording is in May of 2025. So this list is for 2025. And when it switches over to the next year, these will be new links and all of that, because I'll have to create new pages and stuff like that for the next year. So all of these are going to link out to 2025 months. I've got a little summary here, which do not ask me how this was built. Again, description with the link for the person who built this. I don't know how to do this, but basically this shows me, okay, I've got this many things that are going to be posted on social media stuff today, how much I have this week, and how much I have left to post this month. So pretty helpful, especially if you want to have like a quick look at what's going on in your stuff. Perfect for that. And then down here, I've got my master to-do list. And this is basically where, again, if you're familiar with Asana or Jira or anything like that, where you have like project planning, this is basically pulling off of all those different dashboards and creating different views for them. So I've got an overall to-do list task thing that I have created kind of off to the side. So these are like the big stuff. So finishing the first draft of the current work in progress you've seen me talking about, Project TF. So I got to finish the first draft. And then after that, I'll have an outline that I need to do for the next book that I'll be working on, so on and so forth. So all of these different tasks are built to give me a bigger picture view of what I need to do going forward. I've got project goals. So I've got a whole list of, the projects that I'm working on and the goals that I have for that. Again, social media, I've got timelines and some tasks and stuff associated with the different projects that I'm working on. So I've got little timelines here for all of that. So I might create like a whole long thing for this of like going through each and every single page that I have on here. I don't think I'm going to do that for this video though. I think it might be helpful just to show you the exact things as an indie author that are helpful for me and go from there and see how everything goes. So as you can see, again, as I mentioned, I own an LLC. So some of the business information and stuff associated with that are under my business pages. I'm not going to show you that because obviously that is private information. I will show you the projects page because that's where, again, the book projects part of this comes in. So again, navigation over here on the left, I've got some helpful links that I created. I found these a lot. I think I found these through another author who had mentioned some stuff, some helpful links and stuff like that for creating stuff. So I have some helpful links over here that I put for myself in case I need them, the overall goals and stuff like that for all of my projects. And then down here, I have my active projects. So I'm not going to scroll further down because this is going to be the private stuff. I have a dashboard for each project that I create, which again, I have specifics for each one. So I'm not going to show you those particularly just because I want to keep some of that private, obviously. But all of the dashboard links that I created for these projects are here. But what I will show you is kind of like a Frankenstein of the other template that I mentioned that's in the description. So this is kind of my Frankenstein version of that to create a dashboard for each one. So let's open the book project template. This is basically for each book project that I have, I create a dashboard, so to speak, for each one. And it houses all of the information for that specific book. So I have a section where I write the summary or the book blurb. So all of that will go under here to keep track of story themes and tropes. Just so for my quick reference later, I put all of those here. Amazon categories, but started to do this with my more recent ones. Tosca, I did publishing through Ingram Sparks only, and I'm not going to do that this time. I'm going to do for Pen Name Project, it's going to be the paperback and eventually the hard copy will be through Ingram Sparks. So that way it's available on a bunch of different retail websites, but the ebook will be exclusive to Amazon. So that's why I have this category here is the Amazon categories for each of those. And then the comp title. So basically when talking about like, oh, well, if you've read this, then you're going to love this. And oh, if you've read this book by this author, then you'll definitely love my book kind of thing. All of those, any books that I read or know of that have similar story themes, similar concepts, tropes, or whatever to what my book is, it goes in this section here. I have a little to-do list down here, and I have it under different categories. So outlining, writing, editing, marketing, publishing, all of that kind of stuff. All of those tasks go down here. Due dates, you get the drill. Back up here, we've got, so right now, I don't have a cover for, like, for example, the Pen Name Project. So I have like a just generic, and this came with this template. So it's just a generic like placeholder for the book cover. That's what this is. I like to create book playlists for each book that I'm working on. So I put that, this is an example because I needed to have a placeholder for that on here. So that's for the Pen Name Project. So any new project, this basically gets updated to whatever that new playlist is. So Pen Name Project is listed on here for now. Quick links. This is for the dashboard part itself. So there's a section for brainstorming, researching, themes. There's a writing schedule, which I'll show you more in a second. Characters, setting, basically all of these like big, parts of creating a book. A little bit self-explanatory for some of these. Some of these again are there if you want the specifics on each of these templates. That again, link in the description. I'm going to keep repeating that, but I will show you the writing. This is part of the template, but I wanted to show you this writing schedule because this is what I personally find really, really helpful. is the writing schedule. So basically it tracks what you're writing. So for particularly, I put D1, so draft 1. I'll have a draft. It says session number here, but I basically put like what I'm doing. So I'll say, okay, well, D1 chapter 5, D1 chapter 21 or something like that. So basically whatever I'm doing for that particular session that I'm doing, that's what I do. The date is basically like what date I'm doing the writing on. So like if it were today, I would put today's date. The manuscript total and the manuscript end. I've got this little note up here because I was really confused when I first got this template because I wasn't sure exactly how this works with the formulas and all that kind of stuff. So I put this little note up here just to remind myself that at the start of the day, I need to know how much words I start with. And over here is what I end up with. So for this very first session, it would be obviously 0 because I don't have any words on the manuscript yet. And then at the end of that writing session, I put how much total I have from that day. And then this number here then goes into this column of what I will start with the next day, and then so on and so forth. And then basically these two formulas are the daily progress is going off of all of this over here. So however much I should be writing based off of the manuscript goal number, how much I should be writing per day, and if I've made that percentage for that day. So if I need to write like 1,000 words for that day and I only write 900, then it'll be like you've written 90% of your goal basically. And then the manuscript project is whatever your manuscript total goal is. It's going to calculate basically exactly how much of your book you've written so far. So if I've written 30,000 words, it'll say however many out of whatever my goal number is, which because I tend to write, at least right now, I'm writing mostly like contemporary romances. Eventually I'll do other stuff, and I've got a mystery that I'm working on and that kind of thing. So this number will change, but I like to have at least 80,000 words because that's just kind of like the standard amount for romances. So I have 80,000. The goal is to meet at least that, but I usually go over. Like I think Pen Name Project was at least 102,000 words. So, and again, each author is going to have their different number that they're aiming for. I'm a self-published indie author, so that's just what I tend to like. That's for the actual writing. I also have, there's a section for outline planning. So if you want to outline your book in advance, this is kind of like where you can go to do that. I have different tabs here for each different version because there's going to be different versions, especially I'm using Pen Name as my kind of baseline for that because I went through probably 5 drafts of the Pen Name Project before I was done with it. So each version, I basically would come in here and be like, okay, well, this is what my outline was. This is what I want the outline to look like for this next draft. So that's where I plan that. I'll go back, and then editing schedule, same thing of like, okay, this just came with the template, so I didn't change this at all. But this is basically like any edits that you're making once you get done with the actual writing. You know, kind of track what you're doing here. And the same thing with there's a querying one. I don't use that one because again, I'm indie self-published, so I don't need to query. But if that's what you want, there is something that you can use for yourself. So this, again, this is for the book stuff. I find this particularly really, really helpful because I like having one place where I can find everything. I like knowing if I need information for the Pen Name Project, I need to go to the dashboard for the Pen Name Project, and any information that I have will be under that tab, and it'll all be listed out for me, which my dashboard for the Pen Name Project, so that you can actually see what that looks like as an example. And I didn't start using this template more actively until recently. So I was done writing Pen Name Project when I started using this. So this is kind of a post-use example of this, but I wanted to show you something of how I used it. And again, stuff I moved around and I'm playing around with the actual template, so keep that in mind. So I've got my summary here. Eventually, I'm hoping like this week, I think is when I start working with my cover designer. So when I get the cover, that's where that's going to go. I've got all my links over here. I've got this section here. I can't remember if I mentioned it before, but there's a post publication links. So basically, I'm using this section of like, okay, here are all my ISBN numbers, any links that are going, like, so when I get my Amazon link for the ebook, that's going to go here. Any links that I know of for like Universal links or, Barnes & Noble links, all of that's going to go down here. Just some information from my cover designer. There's a Goodreads page that's already been created for me. Yay. We love that. But there's a page for me for my Goodreads for the pen name project. So specifically to go to the book on the page, not necessarily my author page on there. For story, tropes, and themes down here, the Amazon categories I have for the book are all listed here. I went through and these are all the books that these three in particular, which is why they're highlighted, are the ones I feel were the closest to comparisons to the pen name project. So I looked at, and which is why I have these two sections listed here, is what I do is I'll go in and I'll look to see what the book on Amazon, particularly Amazon, I'll look and see what categories each of the books that I think are comp titles to my book, I'll go and I'll see what categories they're listed in so that I know a better idea of what I should look for putting my book into for these categories. So the highlights on here are basically just the different colors basically are for me to track what common ones are in all of these. So like, for example, the contemporary romance was in basically all of these. So that's highlighted here. You can see up here is what I'm going to be putting in there. Romantic comedy, same thing. It's in the same thing for these three. So that's going to go in there. I think women in fiction, contemporary women in fiction is in there twice. So I put that as a category. So just as an example, that not to say that that's what you would need to do or what you would want to do. That's just because, again, I'm an indie author. That's stuff I need and I would like to track so that I know what I need to do when it's time for me to hit the little publish button. So again, as you can see kind of over here I have a word count thing. This is when I started actually tracking on this page and actually putting stuff on here. So I was basically done. So there's nothing listed under here. So there's not really anything particularly interesting on here. The only one I want to pull out for this page is the marketing. So the marketing this is like a little homepage. And again, this is on that template, so you can find it there. This is basically for all of my marketing and planning for putting out the pen name project. So I've got a strategy listed here, which I'll just show you kind of like a quick glimpse of it. But basically this is something I created on here. So I don't think this is on the template. I have to double check if it's actually on the template or not. But basically this is my roadmap of a general outline on what I need to do and what I need to expect in terms of actually getting my book out there. Over here, I've got some marketing hook. This video in particular, which Katie Weismer, she's an incredible author and I love some of her stuff. I've got some of her books somewhere around here. She makes a lot of content on books and indie stuff. So in this video, she's talking about like the marketing hooks. I think it's particularly for like TikTok and that kind of thing. But that I was very interested in learning more about that. So that's why these videos are on here, is basically for me to remember and reference. So these are some hooks and stuff like that for pen name project. But basically, again, like I said, this little roadmap shows me kind of a general outline of what I need to do, when I need to do it, all that kind of stuff. Again, because I'm now focusing on doing this more on a full-time basis, again, not full-time yet, but because this is something I am focusing on, this is something I'm trying to track and learn and grow. So that's why that's here. So that's why I wanted to show you the marketing pages, because it's obviously a lot more important for an indie author than it would be for some of the other authors who may not need to do that kind of thing. That's the book project section of this, is all of writing. I have a page here for all of my notes and any ideas or any kind of things I want to follow up on for books in the future. All of that is listed under these two pages here. Marketing is another big section that I use very frequently on here, especially these two tabs here, the social media planning and the newsletter planning, because as I have mentioned probably before, and it's in the description, or the link for it is in the description. I do have a newsletter that I send out. It's through Substack, and I'm trying to grow that a little bit more and get some more exclusive content out. So I'll, again, make an emphasis of check that out in the description if you're interested. But I do plan those out in advance. Same with the social media planning, which I will show you the page for that. This whole thing is coming from the original template that I mentioned with the dashboard. So these are, again, quick links to some of my social media platforms. I'm on Blue Sky, obviously here on YouTube, my Substack, Instagram, TikTok, all that kind of stuff. These are just for my reference so that I can, if I need to copy a link to put it somewhere, this is where I can find it if I'm on this particular page. The content dashboard, I'm just going to show you this. Basically, the content dashboard leads to all of what I've got going on. So I've got stuff under this month. So anything that I have listed under, I'll show you an example of what I mean. So it basically pulls from these different tabs or these little sections here. So if I were to put a published date on, like today, for example, it will show up in my this month tab. So it's got the status of, not started. So like, for example, this is my content ideas page. So this is just kind of an ideas of like what stuff I might want to make in the future, kind of like stuff I might want to revisit later, just some general ideas of stuff I might want to look into making in the future. So I can pull it into whatever I'm doing. And I made these based off of what was originally on this template that came with it. I found these little things that this creator had made for these, and I kind of made them my own by making them unique for each kind of content, so that you can see, like, I'm a very visual person when it comes to some of this stuff. So it's very easy for me to just be like, okay, I see picture for Instagram posts. I know that this is going to be an Instagram post. I know that this is going to be a TikTok or for YouTube shorts. So that's where I'm going to find that, so on and so forth. I have one for YouTube videos, which, yeah, there's an example of one that I have for there. Sometimes, again, I recently started implementing that, which is why you can see some of them are just these kind of generic colors. So a very recent change of why these are all looking different. But I find the social media planning particularly helpful, again, because I have so much going on outside of just writing, outside of just being an author, that I need to know and have a place to track all of that, because otherwise I forget that I have stuff that's going on that I need to do. And it's really chaotic to have like a calendar when you have like 5 million other things going on, because you're just getting ping, 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 ping. So having like a one designated place for this is really helpful. So let me show you an example of what I had from January. This is before I started making a lot of like my own customizations to this. So this is a good place to kind of start of where this template actually looked like before I started doing it, or before I started making changes to it. But it's a dashboard for just the month of January. I had like a theme that I was trying to do when I started planning things, which I don't do anymore. But like when I first was starting to use that, when I first got this template, that's what I was trying to do. So that's here. There's the content planning section. So I've got like my different posts, Instagram. I wasn't doing YouTube at the time. So it has just basically all of my Instagram posts, some Instagram reels, all the details and information for what each of those is listed on those. I like to keep track of like how things are doing, just so I know if there's any tweaks I need to make. So that is the social media planning stuff. And then I've got some other pages down here. So resources, some continue learning. I like to learn more and to grow. So I'll take some classes occasionally, or some like webinars or other courses or something like that. And I will put information for those, what I learned from those, and like notes and any pamphlets or anything like that they give in those sections. So that way I have kind of a place to go and review those if I need to. Inspiration. So I love having a page where I can go and actually look of, this is, okay, so I'll just pull this up. I might as well show you, it's my tour, right? So this is something that, again, this person made, but I put my own stuff in, obviously. But there's a mood board. This is basically a giant mood board of all the different videos, all the different types of content that I find inspiration from, or I like and I would like to revisit in the future. So for example, this right here is a reading of somebody's book that they did for one of their YouTube videos. And I think this person has like a series where they would read like a chapter or something like that per video, which that might be something I eventually do, especially for Tosca. I think I might eventually do that. So I put that as like an inspiration here. Book character art, and then cover artist potentials are people that I really like their artwork and their styles. So I've put the links for them. And then same here of like some just inspirational stuff, some thumbnail inspiration, some other videos that people have done that I find inspiration from, TikToks that I enjoyed, or some stuff of like how I might want to do marketing for my own stuff. So like highlight videos or cover reveals and packing up PR packages eventually, that kind of thing. Instagram inspiration. So just like basically all kinds of different things and inspiration that I find in other categories. So like I have a section for book launch stuff. So, you may see me doing something about launching a pen name project and how that posts, giveaway inspiration, book cover inspirations. So stuff that I liked for you know, like the pen name project, which I don't mind showing you these because this is probably not going to be what I actually do with the book, but some covers that I really liked and I was wanting to kind of keep track of, so that if I talked to my cover artist and I did like some of these, I could give them to her. So that kind of thing. So that's what this inspiration page is for. And I personally find it really helpful to have kind of like a master list of all of that. So that way, when I am planning other things, I can kind of look back and be like, oh, I remember this video. I remember why I wanted to do this thing. So this is what I'm looking at. This is what I'm referring to. The testimonials for me. So this page that was created, I think this is more geared towards like if somebody has services or something like that that they want to collect testimonials for. I use this section particularly for book testimonials if I really, really like it. So I left this one here because I liked how this looks on here. But for example, so for Tosca, I've got 3 comments that I found that I really liked for testimonials for Tosca. So I'll find those there, and then there's other ones down here. But I find this page is going to be a lot more useful once I actually get the pen name project out, so that way I can have a page to put all of that here. So yeah, so that is the tour of my dashboard as it is right now. It's constantly changing and growing. I haven't fully set on like 100% this is how it's going to look forever, because I am a creative and I get a very like creative itch every now and then, if you know what I mean, of like I'll look at this one day and then a couple months in the future I'll probably look at it and be like, I absolutely hate everything about this and I need to rework it and make it look a whole different way. So it's good in that way, but it's also, I guess, obviously negative if you don't want to run around and create your own kind of chaos. Again, I find Notion particularly helpful because I like having somewhere to like keep all of my stuff in one location, and that's what I'm trying to do with Hello Link. That's what I'm trying to do with my Notion. So I'm gonna switch over to just me talking here, the conclusion of the tour, and I'll talk about a couple of like pieces of advice or tips or whatnot of what you can do if this is something that you would want to do for yourself. So, all right, now on to the tips and advice that I have for anybody who wants to start implementing a system like I do on my dashboard for Notion. First, don't start any of this if this is going to be something that overwhelms you. Start small, start little. Again, I use this because I'm used to this kind of a setup. I work on Asana, I work on Notion. I've used a bunch of different kind of tools like this and the different features and stuff like that. So if you're worried that it's going to overwhelm you, start really small. Start with like again, if you want to get like the big, huge dashboard built for you, or get a template like the one I have, again, listed in this description. If you want to get something like that, totally fine. You can customize it and make it your own if that's something that you're willing to do and have the time for. If not, start very small. Notion has a bunch of different templates and stuff that you can use. It doesn't have to be super fancy and super pretty. You can start small and work your way up to something more like this. So don't let this intimidate you in any way, because again, I'm still learning and I'm still trying to figure some of this stuff out myself. So don't let this intimidate you into thinking that you can't ever have like a dashboard like this for yourself, because you can. Again, if I can do it, you can do it. In fact, if there's anything that you want to take away from this, that as an indie author, as an author of anything in general, a writer, whatever, if there's anything you want to take away or any template or anything you want to take away, my biggest recommendation would be just start with the book stuff. Just start with what project that you're working on and build something for that specifically. Again, I built my platform, or not my platform, I built my template and my Notion dashboard around the fact that I have this LLC that I created in order to publish under both my name, which is Elizabeth C. Cabrera, and my pen name, which is Lee Creek. So I have both of those names that I'm going to be operating under, which is why I wanted to have like an umbrella for all of that. But you don't need to have that. So if you want to just have dashboards for just your books, that's perfectly fine. I think having a place to have all of your information for planning your book in one place is really, really helpful. At least it is for me. That's just my personality type. Is I find that having everything in one neat and tidy place is very effective for me. It might not be for you. So you're going to have to figure out what is going to work best for you, what things you want to do with it, and go from there. And with that said, you're going to want to find out and figure out what things you want to actually track. Like, again, I'm just showing you an example of what I did with mine, how I tracked a bunch of different resources and stuff like that for what I'm doing and how I'm customizing this template for my personal use. But for you, or for your books, whatever you want to use, again, you don't even have to use this for just writing books. You can use stuff like this for whatever else you want to work on. But figuring out what you want to track, how you want to track it, is going to be absolutely key. Look up other YouTube videos of other people who use Notion or other resources. Like, again, you don't even have to use Notion if you're a little intimidated by all the customization and stuff like that. You don't have to use that. Notion or Asana is perfectly capable for it. Jira is perfectly capable for it. There are other platforms and tools. I think Monday's another one that I've seen people talking about. So there are different platforms and stuff like that out there that you can use in order to track your stuff if that's what you want to do. So don't feel like you have to be honed in on just Notion. Explore other templates, explore other tools. I'm just telling you what my experience with Notion is because I find it more to what I want, but that may not necessarily be what you want for your tracking and all of that. My other piece of advice is going to be, don't spend money on it until you know what you want. And I say this as somebody who has done that because I bought because Notion is great in the fact that you don't have to pay for using it. You don't have to pay for a subscription unless you want to use some of their more advanced features, which I currently on this is all what you saw is on their free subscription. All of that is on free subscription. I don't use their premium stuff yet. I might eventually, because there is some stuff I want to change eventually to gear it towards some other stuff. And anyway, eventually I might use it and all that, but don't pay for something if you don't know for sure you want to use it yet. Utilize the free trials. If you're not going to use Notion and there are other places you want to check out, utilize those free trials and play with it as much as you can and see if that's something you actually want to do or actually want to use. Because the last thing especially as indie authors, as writers, the last thing you want is to waste your money on something you're not even going to use. And that goes for some of these templates as well. I bought these templates because I had tried some other stuff and I didn't really like how I was creating it. So I wanted to tailor it and make it a little bit neater and tighter and all that kind of stuff. And I didn't have the time to okay. So I didn't have the time or the energy or the resources to create an entire huge thing for myself. So I looked up templates and I purchased a template on my own because that's just what I wanted. You don't have to do that. Again, Notion has plenty of free templates that you can use for free, emphasis on free, that you don't have to use any or pay for anything that you don't want to. If you want to make it aesthetic and pretty, there are ways to do it for free. If not, Etsy is perfectly fine if you want to find somebody who has made templates that you can customize for yourself. So do with that what you will. Another tip is going to be, this is all going to be trial and error. You're going to have to play with it and see what you like about it, what you don't like about it, what things you want to try and change and all that kind of stuff. Look up tutorials, look up codes and stuff like that, because there are some codes that I used on my dashboard to make things look a particular way. Like the little headers that I had on each section, I made those myself. So like if you want to be creative and add your own stuff onto it, definitely can. There are different tools and stuff like that. I use Canva. Well, I pay for a subscription on there because of how often I use it and for what I use it for, but Canva has a free subscription as well. So you can use their platform to create little fun things on there as well and make it your own. So play with it. You know, if you having the time is a luxury and having extra time to do it is a luxury. So if you have that time, use it, play with it, trial and error, see what you like, what you don't like, and then make decisions on what you want to do going forward. And I will close out this video with this I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope I was able to give you at least some ideas of what you might want to do if you want to look into doing Notion for tracking your author stuff, your book writing stuff, whatever. Again, I am still really new. This is going to be an ever-changing thing. So this is basically the 2025 May version of this video. I might do follow-ups in the future if I make more changes to my dashboard, but I thought it would be helpful because as an indie author, and this is going to be the first video that I put in this playlist, which I will also have linked in the description and down in the video. indie author resources and newbie author slash newbie writer resources, because as authors, as writers, as somebody who wanted to do this more full time, there's so many different things. There's so many resources. There's so many different opinions on what you should and shouldn't be doing. There's so many, there's too much, and they're in too many different places. So I want to have one playlist that you can look at, and anything I'm learning as I'm growing, I'm going to put in here so that you can learn and you can grow along with me, hopefully. Because again, this is a trial by fire. And I wish that I had somebody tell me what to do. I wish I had somebody who told me you need to do X, Y, Z, A, B, C, D, elemental P. I wish I had somebody who told me what to do and how to make things work, but I don't. So this is a lot of trial and error. This is a lot of figuring things out as I go. And if I can make my journey a learning lesson for you guys, then I will be more than happy. Like, you can take what I have learned from, so you don't have to make the same mistakes that I did. I might, like, for example, Tosca, I'm probably going to make a whole separate video talking about everything I learned and failed at doing for my very first book, and what I'm going to do, or what I will be doing, or what I've already done, depending on when I can film it, for the pen name project, and then so on and so forth from there, because each book is a learning process. And there's things I wish somebody had told me when I was publishing the Tosca that nobody told me about, or that I just didn't do my research properly on, or whatever explanation I have for it, that I wish somebody had told me in advance. So if I can take anything of my journey and help you guys on your journeys, make it a little bit easier so that you have one place, one resource thing to look at and help you with your stuff, then I will be more than happy. And I am excited to continue to grow on this journey with you guys, and I will see you guys in the next video. So have a good one.